Hello, and welcome to another edition of To Stewardship, where we learn to be good stewards of what God has entrusted to us. I'm your host, the Reverend Doctor, and today I want to talk about something that maybe we overlook sometimes. I want you to realize that God can use anybody and anything to get his job done. He can use anybody or anything to get his job done. Now, people saying that right now we're in the coronavirus thing, and some people are saying that, that I'm not saying that God created this, but I tell you one thing, it surely got everybody's attention. So it could be, that these things, because the Bible does say things that God uses things to get his job done. So I want you to realize that God can use any body or any resources to get the job done. And I got some scripture for you today, and I want you to ponder on that for a little while. Because, things that God do, we say they're a mystery. They're a mystery to us because we can't explain how it gets done. We cannot explain why this person did that to benefit me. We can't explain that. All we say is that was God, and God all by himself. So I want you to know that this evening that we're going to really focus on God using all the resources and people to get his job done. All right, the first one is Proverbs chapter 23. Proverbs 13. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. And I'm reading from the NIV this evening. And I got my trusted device. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. In other words, what he's saying is that the sinner, even though the sinner is accomplishing and gaining a lot right now, it looks like they're prospering, but God said they're doing that for the righteous. They're doing that for the righteous. So God can use the sinner to store up the riches that he would give to the righteous. And remember, you can't take it with you. So you might as well do it in God's name. You can't take it with you because all the wealth you got, all the money you got or whatever cannot give you one more minute of life. And when the death angel comes and says, your soul is required, he's not going to wait till you go and clean out your bank account and create some kind of will. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Okay, Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 26. To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. So what he's telling that here in Ecclesiastes, what they're saying is that you storing up these things as a sinner, it's useless, meaningless. But the righteous, God will give them wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But the sinner, he's given a task. He's given the task to accumulate all of this wealth, to accumulate all of this so that God can give it to the righteous. Now think about that. God uses the sinner to accumulate the riches so that he can give them to the righteous, the ones that please God. Now isn't that something? That he's going to use the sinner to accumulate the riches and then turn around and give it to the one who pleases him. That's a God. Isaiah chapter 45. Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 3. In Isaiah 45 verse 3, God says, I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places. so that you may know that I am the Lord, the God of Israel, who summons you by name. God said that people take things and they hide them and put them in secret places. God said, I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to give that to the righteous person. Those riches that are in secret places, that people put in secret places. I mean, we hear it all the time that when someone get a house and they buy a house and they, was in the closet one day and they saw this, I don't know, door or something in the closet. They opened it up and found treasure back there. That meant that the previous owner put that in a secret place. He put it in a secret place, but he didn't use it. God gave it to somebody else. So we are to make sure that what we do by being good stewards is that we do in the name of God. If we do it for our selfish pleasures, He will allow us to gather those riches. He will allow us to accumulate it so that He can give it to the righteous. So He can give it to the righteous. Okay, Job chapter 27. Job chapter 27. And we'll start at verse 13. Now I want you to pay attention to this one. Here is the fate God allots to the wicked. The heritage a ruthless man receives from the Almighty. However many his children, their fate is the sword. His offspring will never have enough to eat. The plague will bury those who survive him, and their widows will not weep for them. Though he heaps up silver like dust and clothes like piles of clay, what he lays up the righteous will wear, and the innocent will divide his silver. So he's saying that the wicked, that there's going to be calamity in his life. That whatever he accumulates, he's laying it up for the righteous to wear, and for the innocent to divide his silver. So it looks like they're prospering now. It looks like the wicked is prospering. And I know the Christians saying, God, I'm out here, following you, and I'm struggling, and I look over there at them, and they don't care nothing about you, and they're prospering. But God said, don't worry about that. You do your part. You stay in your lane. Because God said, I got something at the end. And what happens at the end is all that the wicked accumulates, it will be given to the righteous. Proverbs 28. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 8. Proverbs 28 and 8. Whoever increases wealth by taking interest or profit from the poor amasses it for another, who will be kind to the poor. Now this is saying if you use the people, you use it for taking advantage of the poor, and what's going to happen is all the riches that you got, that's for somebody else. Somebody else is going to do that. Somebody else who is kind to the poor. So the wicked accumulates, but he's doing it for the righteous. Isaiah 23 and 18. Isaiah 23, verse 18. Yet her profit and her earnings will be set apart for the Lord. They will not be stored up or hoarded. Her profits will go to those who live before the Lord for abundant food and fine clothing. That those that, the wicked that seems to be prospering now, God is allowing them to accumulate those riches so that they can give it to the righteous. So that means that God is using people and resources to get his job done. So if it is amassing is what you after, then do it in God's name. So God will allow you to keep it. But the wicked, they amass. God allows them to amass so that he can give it to you. So he's using other people. He's using the wicked. He's using the wicked to gather for you. He said the task of the wicked is to gather so that he can give to the righteous. So he can gather all this wealth and whatever it is that they claim that's important. And God said, you're going to gather it, but somebody else is going to use it. And I'm doing it for my righteous people. So God can use whatever it is that he wants. He can use people. He can use any resources. Any resource. As we say, what someone started out for bad, God turned it to good. So we should amass in God's name so that we can keep it, so that God will allow us to keep it. Those that amass wickedly, God will allow you to amass that, but in the end, it's going to go to the righteous. It's going to go to the one that pleases God. So we need to please God with our gathering so that we can become good stewards. And we can start on that today. If we've never done it before, whatever it is, let's amass it in God's name so that we'll be able to keep it. Because what he does is he uses the wicked to gather so that it will be given to the righteous. Are we being good stewards today? Are we being good stewards today? If not, then we need to start being a good steward and amass our wealth for God. Well, I'm the Reverend Doctor, and this has been another edition of Journey to Stewardship. And I always sign off by saying, well done, thy good and faithful servant.